can you see my screen?
Yep.
Right, excellent. Underfunding of IT housing projects. Now, I guess that there's a whole load of you here that have enough budget, enough time, enough people, and you're all going to drop off now. But for those of you that don't, what we're finding is that across the board, across all sorts of housing projects, we see the same thing time and time again. We have a budget, it overruns the budget. We have a plan, it overruns the plan. We have a promise of what it's going to deliver, and it doesn't deliver what it promises. And it goes off a little bit half-cocked, doesn't quite do everything we said it would do. We de-scope it, we accept some of this stuff. And I guess in one sense, this is good news, is that we see this not just in housing, but everywhere. So, housing isn't worse than anywhere else. But the bad news is that it impacts our clients, it impacts our residents, it impacts our staff. It's not good. So getting a better business case to get better funding is going to make a difference across the board. Just as an example, we see two areas that come up time and time again. One is requirements. People keep saying to us, well, we haven't got requirements. And the other is testing. In your last project, think about your last project and think about testing particularly. Did you have a professional dedicated test analyst? So the answer could be yes or no, or we just got the business to do it. So a quick A, B or C in the chat would be helpful. Yeah, so I'm seeing a mix of mainly Bs and Cs, a few As in there, which is good. We see this a lot, that we just don't have the resource that we're looking for. And it happens mainly because of these three reasons. First of all, you're doing a new project, whether it's a new housing management system or even trying to put in some new functionality like Arab's Law. And you look at your neighbours, you look at your other authorities or housing associations around you, you go to people on Thistle or the HUD group and you say, what were you doing? And you benchmark against what other people have already done. And if what they're doing isn't all that it needs to be, you're benchmarking against the same set of gaps. The next thing that happens is that we go out to tender, because that's the way we do things, and we get a response back from the supplier. Now, these suppliers have all got salesmen. Now, having worked for an organisation where I was a delivery partner, I personally could have throttled every single salesman in that organisation because they promised things that I knew I couldn't deliver, but I wasn't in the meeting. So they're going to tell you that, oh, this works well. We've done it 100 times before. It's only going to take you 18 months and we'll deliver everything on time to budget. And we believe what the supplier says. And mainly because they all say the same thing. And they have to get the contract. And then what we do is we say, okay, we're going to go with what the suppliers told us, what we need to do, and we're going to write our business case based on that. We haven't got a full software development lifecycle in our brain or in documentation, so we can't write a proposal based on a full system lifecycle. We benchmark, we believe, we do what we know, and that's not enough. And then somebody comes along to us and says, oh, you've just gone live with such and such. How did it go? And we tell them what we did, which isn't quite what we should have been doing. And they're going to say, oh, right, we'll do the same. So it's a cycle that feeds itself. So what happens is the salesman's going to say, oh, it's going to be quick and easy. And what they're going to give you, they're going to give you their software license. They're going to help you configure the system. And they're going to give you their consultancy days. And if you're lucky, they might do a bit of training, train the trainer or whatever. But what you've got to think in your business case, what you've got to provide are the requirements, your testing documentation, your data integrations, all of your training. And a huge area that we often forget is backfilling the people that we're taking out of the business to do this. I can't count the number of times I've seen people being told, you're seconded full time to this project to deliver this project. Oh yeah, but we want you to do your J job as well. And sometimes even when they're given the time, because of who we are as housing professionals, we can't let go. We're still going back to the day job because we want to make sure it's done well. So the problem is that we're overly optimistic about what we can do and what we can achieve and who we've got. So that impacts what we're doing. And a typical plan will say, okay, we're going to figure this. We're going to do some data migration. Well, it's not going to be difficult. We'll get the supplier to help us with that. And then the business will test it. And we leave out getting all the requirements and making sure that they're the correct requirements, that we've got the user stories. The business analyst has done the as is and what we want it to be. All of this stuff in this properly resourced plan panel, that tends to get done either not at all or badly or rushed. And that's all building up because we didn't get the right business plan right at the beginning. That will then mean that there are roles that are just not existent because we didn't have all of that thinking. When we go to put our resource plan in, we haven't got business analysts or test managers or trainers. We may not have the data migration people that we need. And so we get started on a project that isn't properly funded. And what we want to do is we want to change the way that we present our business plan. So this is where it becomes more important to look at the total cost of ownership rather than the implementation plan. Because it's very easy to focus on what do I need to get this live without realizing if you get it live and you don't get it live as robust as it might be, there's all of this lifetime costs. You've got rework to do because you didn't configure it right. You've got bug fixing or gaps to reintroduce because we didn't quite get that bit of it done. We haven't got the security right. We've got to go back to the security. We've got all sorts of change requests and reporting. We might delay the go live because we didn't have the right plan. We've got to point B and we now know we can't get to point C in the time we've got left. So all of that means when we're presenting our business case, we need to look at the whole total life cycle costs. So if the project's going to cost you 100 grand, it'll save you 100 grand, but it's going to cost you 200 grand afterwards, it doesn't make the same financial sense. So we need to begin presenting stronger business cases. We're not going to begin with what do we need for our new system. We're going to begin with what's the cost and the risk of failure if we don't get this right. Let's start to articulate in our business plan the amount of manual work that we're going to have to do, how much avoidable contact we're going to take on board because we didn't get it right. What about our compliance exposure, our delayed decisions? All of these things should be going into the business plan as a risk and a cost. Whereas often what we do is we just say, oh, it's going to cost X to implement. So we need to make sure that we base the costings and the justification for what we're doing on the cost of doing nothing, the cost of not doing it right, the cost of getting it wrong. So all of this stuff is going to be important in our plan. Jem, did you want to ask your question now?
No, it wasn't. Sorry.
Sorry.
I meant to clap, not to raise my hand. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
But it's such a good point. Such a good point.
Thank you. A stronger business case is going to cost the complete delivery model, not just the implementation. So we're going to cost the discovery and design stage. We want to make sure that even before we get to our procurement process or we get to our tender, that we've really understood what it is that we need so that we can articulate that correctly and what our controls and governance are going to be so we can articulate that correctly. Because without getting that right, we're going to get to the stage where we ask the supplier to do something and they say, oh, that was never in the contract. We want to make sure that our testing and our assurance is all baked into that plan. What's it going to cost to actually create test scripts that have user stories, that have acceptance criteria, which have test cases which you can link back to your requirements? What about the governance? What about the PMO stuff and all of the decisions, how's that being recorded? And really, really importantly at the moment, something I'm getting a little bit agitated with is, if we're going to use AI, and I believe we should be, what's the governance around our AI? How are we making sure that we're controlling that use? Because the truth is, if you haven't got that controlled, it's going to be used anyway. It's going to be a shadow AI in there. What about your data and your integration? Have you really thought that through? It's not an easy ask to get data into the system, particularly if you've got 20 years of old data where people have put stuff in wrong. It's grown over time. Have we got the right people? Have we got them on board? Are we winning their hearts and souls? All of that needs to be in that business case. So if we start with that, we start creating a better business case. And then when we present that business case, often what I've seen is that people present a single option. We need to be presenting options in that business case, even though we've got a preferred option, because presenting the options gives those in charge the ability to see what they can choose and how that impacts the outcome. So if we're going to do a minimal viable product, that's going to have a cost and an outcome. If we're going to follow what everybody else has done, it's going to have a cost and an outcome. If we're going to use AI in there, which would be my preferred model, it's going to have a cost and an outcome. So presenting those different options in your business case allows for a more informed decision, and it helps people understand why they are being given the options and what the costs are truly all about. We need to make a stronger business case. We want to be showing where we're getting cash savings, where we're getting capacity release, where we're getting avoiding extra costs, where these other benefits are coming from. If we look at something that we do, the benefit, let's say it's reporting repairs. Well, how many repairs do you report, and what does that cost in terms of time? If you've got 1,000 repairs and it's taking you 5 minutes to record them, because you've got to go to 3 different screens on 2 different systems, and you're then going to do that in 3, you're saving 2,000 minutes. So you do, what's the volume, what's the time saved, what's the loaded staff cost? So not just what's it going to cost in terms of wages, but in terms of national insurance, holiday, other jobs they're not doing, what's the loaded cost time? And then what are you realizing? What's the savings? And when you lay it out like that and you can show how those savings are being affected, you're able to justify that resource ask, because you're able to show something at the other side of it. So how do we bridge that gap? Because even with the best business plan, you're still going to be asked to do more with less. It's just the way of the world. And this is where we do believe that AI comes in. Now, we don't think that AI should replace the business. It certainly doesn't replace the need for governance. It doesn't replace the need for accountability. Doesn't replace the need for people to make decisions, but it can allow people to do their job faster and better. And so you can set up your agents, so it's got the project knowledge, it's grounded in your requirements, in the law, in all that you're doing. It can help you with your delivery workflow. It can do your reports. It can do your analysis for you, as we've seen with David's little demo earlier on. It can do quality governance. This AI can make a big difference if it's used properly, if it's used responsibly, and if it's governed. The 5 things I think we need to do to get a better business case: baseline the current cost and risk, cost the complete delivery model, not just the implementation, present a minimum, a conventional and an AI enabled option, qualify the benefits conservatory and show where you're going to put the ownership, and then include governed AI delivery system. Bit of a rush, I understand, at the end there, but if you put it in the budget, you're likely to get a better response. And if people want to know more, happy to talk through the practicalities of that at any time.